Well, this morning I shared with you a lot of the vitals, the statistics. Approximately 185, and when I say approximately 185 people, approximately 140 campers, I should have explained better this morning that what that means is we had some kids came late, some kids left early, so at any given time, I think our total was 140, maybe 141 or 2 campers. 47 staff, 3 minis and 2 dogs, and an inflatable unicorn. Our minis, we had 3 of our young ladies, not quite camper age, were mini staff, which they then promoted themselves to mini directors, which is probably a good idea. Ryan Beer called them the half staff, so they were very helpful. They handled our bell situations pretty well. Speaking of numbers, let me just also share with you, we had 6 first time, or at least first time since I've been involved with Teen Camp, first time counselors. And what was really cool about that, which to me kind of typifies our staff, we had 3 of those first-time counselors were under the age of 24, and 3 of those counselors were over the age of 24. I'll just put it that way. But that's what's so great. Our staff is varied. We have some young adults, and then we have some adults, some parents, some grown-ups. Which, I mean, not that the young adults aren't grown-ups, but I mean some people with some life experience, which is really cool to see those people mesh together and work together. So many people did so much work going into camp. And I'm not great big on pointing single people out or singling anybody out. But one person who doesn't get nearly enough credit for everything that gets done before camp especially, and then during camp, is my wife, Kara. The fact that camp functions at all is Kara, pretty much. That we can start Sunday at a decent time is because Kara gets everything done before camp. Last year, I think it was last year, we kind of just acknowledged the role that Kara had played for several years anyway. She is a co-director with me and with Max Miller from over at the Boise congregation. So Kara does a ton of work. So she, like I said, she doesn't get nearly enough credit. We had very few injuries. So 1 trip to the emergency room, big deal. Very little illness, had 3 kids not feel great. We did have 2 staff members get sick and have to go home. But, I mean, big picture, it went very well. This is the whole group right here. This is right before we left Saturday. This doesn't include our kitchen staff and maybe a few stragglers that didn't quite get to the picture. But Dustin McCrickard takes these pictures with his drone. If you're not a member of the Ivydale Facebook group and you'd like to see more, I know that Dustin, I'm probably still driving back to Missouri right now, but when they get home, he will dump a ton of pictures on the Ivydale Facebook group, I would imagine. Dustin shared with several of you know Dustin. He has been here for a youth rally. He preached over in Kennewick for several years, or a few years. And he's been at camp for 7 years, 7 years straight. And he shared with us this year that this is probably his last year for a while. We'll see what his daughters and his wife say about that. They came with him for the first time. His wife was a counselor. His daughters were campers. According to them, they're coming back next year no matter what he does. So we'll see how that works out. But Dustin has been incredibly valuable over the years. He's an evangelist. He is the guy that you see so often sitting talking with kids. And between he and I and a few other staff members, we've kind of developed this system that when a kid wants to talk about baptism, they have to go through the filtration system of going through Dustin to me to somebody else, and just to kind of make sure we know that they know what they're doing. So that's been a great thing with Dustin. This is a picture Sunday night maybe, or early Sunday or Monday night of one of our Campfire devotionals. These are the times that I think these kids remember more than anything. I stand up there and talk for 17 hours a day, and they remember these Campfire devotionals. As some kids share some great things. Jared this year arranged for our high school seniors to lead the Campfire devotionals, to share the devotionals. And it was great. We had a different guy every night. Our own Connor Seagraves shared one of the devotionals. And like I said, the kids will remember these far more than anything I say, because these are so impactful. This is pictures, I believe, of Sunday night, because we're all wearing our red shirts. You can see that's when Kara, Max, and I actually had control of things there for a while, Sunday night, and then it got away from us. But our campers are always super focused. Like I mentioned that this morning. It's amazing to me how much these kids just stay connected. I had some of our kids, some kids from other places, come up after lessons and ask me hard questions. Why did you say this? What do you mean about that? I mean, really good questions. I know after our morning lesson, we do a small group where the kids all split up. This year we had 8 small groups. And all the small group leaders were like, the kids ask good questions. We're talking. We're sharing a lot of great things, which is incredible. We have our counselors act as group leaders, and part of our instruction to them is facilitate, don't talk. Try and make these campers talk. And for the most part, the campers lead it. In fact, Brock's group, there was one young man that was highly critical of the discussion questions, yet led his and Chris's small group. So that was fine. And he's a first-year camper, so let him run the group. I'll talk to him about the questions some other time. But like I said, super focused, but we have a lot of fun too. There's a great deal of fun going on. This is the Canteen. For those of you who have been up at camp for years, Canteen is now, for the time being, back behind the lodge where the old kitchen used to be. It was funny, we were thinking how hot the canteen was. That's about where the walk-in freezers used to be. But now it's super hot, but that's where Canteen is. It's actually bigger than it used to be, but that's where it is for now. We'll see what happens. This is some of the guys who are in our cabin 12. For the first time ever, we had extra staff. The first time ever, again, as far as I've been at camp. We had 6 extra guy counselors. So we put them in cabin 12. The ones missing were a guy named James Kirshner, and then again our very own Lauren Angel. They were in this is where they slept, but they were assigned to other cabins. So like 2 guys were with cabin 7, 1 guy was with 8, and so on. So they would do their cabin devotionals with their cabin. They'd hang out with their cabin, but at night they slept in cabin 12. Whatever slept means to those guys. And this is some of the other events that happen at camp. There's competition or tournaments that go on during the day. Jared got roped in to being on one of the teams, volleyball, or one of the volleyball teams, and they had their own shirts made, and apparently they didn't have one that actually fit Jared, so he had to take what was available. But those activities are so much fun during the day, and the kids eat that up. But then again, like I said, when it's time to focus, the kids focus. This is one of the 5 that were baptized at camp. Dustin this year did all but I think one of the baptisms. He's like Dustin the Baptist. And whether he studies with the kids or not, he's also the one willing to get in the pool. So he's like, okay, let him do it. But we had one Monday or Tuesday, then one late one night, and then 2 more. So they're all and then 6, because we're going to count Tyler's for camp from this morning. But those are some of the greatest moments at camp. It's super hot during the day around the pool, but it's so great to be there. We always have a prayer and a song. We kind of welcome that new camper to the family, or that new Christian to the family. Tomorrow I'm going to ask Lori if she would to send out those kids' names in an email so you guys can begin to pray for your new brothers and sisters in Christ. Again, this is later in the week. This is, in fact, Connor's Campfire Devotional. You can't hardly see him there. But you noticed our Sunday or Monday campfire, those were kind of light when it was still kind of light outside. By the middle of the week, it was no longer light outside when it got time for campfire. But these are so powerful. We sing a few songs, and then these guys get up and talk and share important things out of their lives. And those are super, super great times. We just have an absolutely great bunch of kids. I mean, like I said, you guys, as parents, grandparents, those connected to these kids, you have so much to be proud of. We had, like I said, this was year 16 or whatever for me. We've had so few problems. And I used to feel bad saying that, just thinking pretty soon it's going to turn into a train wreck, But it has never done that. These kids stay with us. They listen. Yeah, we have our problems. We had a couple of issues this year, but we always do. But they're little, and they go away, and the kids, in fact, one of the probably greatest problems we had this year, the kid apologized, and everything went away. So you as parents influence on these kids. You ought to be commended. You guys as campers, you guys obviously deserve to be commended from all of this. I mentioned this morning, and in fact, it was also mentioned again that something about camp is, if you know, you know. If you're there and you experience it, you know what we're talking. If you haven't, it's kind of hard to explain sometimes. Like, for instance, that for most of you, when you think about DoorDash, you think of ordering food and it comes to your house. For those of you who are at camp, DoorDash now has a completely different meaning. There were in our skits, I got DoorDashed every day, every night, and it was like, I got everything from sticks to Jell-O to snakes. So,
you always got Lyle.
But I always got Lyle. My name is Lyle. Let's just get that out in the open, and let's just live with it. That's my dad's name, Dad, and we think it's cool. And when you think of black socks, you think of how it looks with your clothes when you get dressed. When we think of black socks, we think of something different, a song. When you think of Adam Clark, you think of something. We think of black socks. Adam's our morning. We call it calisthenics. I don't know what you really call it, but Adam kind of leads those. When you think of peanut butter and jelly sandwiches, you probably think of a snack or maybe a light lunch. When we think of peanut butter and jelly sandwiches now, we think of Vicki Clark. Actually, Vicki and Brock and they kind of led up a team with Kara and Melanie and a few others that were involved in that. We started on, I think, Tuesday night. We started making a late night snack for our kids. So we got all these kids that are growing like crazy. And our kitchen staff, Russ and his kitchen staff are phenomenal. How those people do what they do every year just floors me. But we decided that this year that with these kids, they got to have something else at night. So we decided what we're going to do is make peanut butter and jelly sandwiches. And during the week, I think it was approximately 8,000 sandwiches we made. I don't know the exact number, but it was a bunch of peanut butter and jelly sandwiches. And it was almost funny to just watch them disappear at 8:30 or whatever it was. They're just like, but it was really cool. Much credit is deserved for those people that did that. But then when you think of things about the Bible, when you think of things about the book of John, again, when you think of Jesus talking about the serpent raised on the staff in the wilderness, you think of Numbers 21. Our campers now hopefully think of that, and then they have some other things that they probably think about the snake on a stick that we won't go into. When you think about Jesus using his own saliva to make mud to put on the blind man's eyes, hopefully you think of that account in John's gospel. And whatever else they think of, they can explain to you at home. Same thing with when you think of being born again, born of water and spirit, that those two things go together. Hopefully our campers will remember that water and spirit go together. Just like that. It's water and spirit. Those things belong together. But I also hope that our campers and our staff, everybody who is involved with camp, and I hope we all do, I encourage you to read through the Gospel of John. Get to know that book. It's so powerful. As John says at the end in John chapter 20, verses 30 and 31, it's the things that Jesus did. We don't have the paper to write them all down. But these things that he has recorded, he's written so that we may believe. And we have so much great evidence about Jesus. And I hope that our campers and our staff, from now on, when they think about the woman at the well, the Samaritan woman that Jesus spent time with, I hope they see her differently. See her a little bit differently than maybe they did before camp, as a woman who had issues in her life. But in her time meeting the Messiah, she became a woman who couldn't keep her mouth shut about Jesus. And we think about being evangelists who sit down and study the Bible with people and go through different studies with people and how that's supposed to work. This woman goes and gets a whole town and brings them to Jesus. And I hope that our campers will remember that. I hope our campers and our staff will also think about dealing with adversity and giving up things that keep us from God. And what a challenge that can be, but how rewarding that is. And I hope they'll remember the encouragement that they heard from one of our Campfire devotionals about that very subject. I hope when they think about the woman caught in adultery, that they will then from now on see forgiveness, but also see sin in a different light. Jesus never was light on sin, but Jesus was so great on forgiveness. And from another Campfire devotional, I hope when our kids think about Zacchaeus in the future, that not only will they think of Zacchaeus and remember that sometimes we're Zacchaeus, that we're the ones who are doing everything we can to see the Messiah. But sometimes we're that tree that are holding other people up so they can see the Messiah. I hope when they think about dealing with doubts and dealing with questions in their lives, that they'll also remember Thomas and remember that Jesus can handle our questions and Jesus can handle our doubts. And Jesus never punishes people for having doubts. But what Jesus does is He provides evidence and He provides reassurance and gives answers to those questions and answers to those doubts. I hope in the future when those who are at camp think about Jesus' resurrection on the third day, that they'll remember who outran whom to get to the tomb, first of all, but that they'll also remember Mary and Mary's profound proclamation that she has seen the Lord. And that like Mary, that we will cling to Jesus. And when they think about Peter being asked, "Do you love me?" again and again by Jesus, that they'll remember that in spite of our worst failures and the times where we feel like we've let Jesus down the most, that Jesus again will ask us, "Do you love me?" And that He'll follow up with us just like He did with Peter in John chapter 21, verse 22. Follow me. Just follow me. Another thing our kids will remember is I turn into Tammy Faye Baker every time I talk about camp and stuff. But mostly I hope these kids and our staff will remember and never ever forget about Jesus. That they'll remember meeting the Messiah. And that they'll continue to do just that. To constantly meet Him. In good times and in challenging times and in struggles in our lives. That they'll remember that was a man who was crucified for. He was all God, 100% God, but that He was also 100% man with feelings and emotions. That dealt with struggles and was a man who was experiencing betrayal and disappointment in His followers. And in spite of all of those obstacles, in spite of the abandonment and the betrayal, still loved enough to say, "Father, forgive them, for they don't know what they do." Still loved enough to say, "It is finished. The debts are all paid." But that He rose again on that third day so that His apostles could establish His church so that we could be a part of finishing His mission. Same offers for you from Jesus. Tyler did it this morning, was immersed into Christ, had his sins washed away, and has that blood of Jesus continually washing away his sins. That same offer is for you tonight. If you need to know how, come ask. Let's talk about that. If you've walked away from Jesus as a Christian, you've turned your back on Jesus and maybe have found a distraction somewhere else, the same invitation is for you tonight. The same invitation is for all of us tonight, just like it was 2,000 years ago from Jesus. Follow me. If we can help you in any way, let us know while we stand to sing.